Tonight on our news, the American woman killed in yesterday's shark attack is identified. As investigators are back on the scene, what you need to know about preventing a potentially deadly shark experience. Also, a former attorney who stole close to $2 million from his clients takes a plea deal. Plus, the latest on the Monkeypox virus as PAHO confirms vaccines are on the way. And later, the survivor of a dog attack relives her terrifying experience. The story is straight ahead. Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. The victim of that tragic shark attack near Green Key yesterday has been identified. This as police revisited the scene today to further their investigations, calling the incident a rare occurrence. Berthany McDermott has the latest.
Our news can confirm that Tuesday's shark attack victim is 58-year-old Erie, Pennsylvania resident Carolyn DiPlacido. The American mother was the project coordinator for the Office of Community and Government Relations at Gannon University. In a statement, the university said, Carolyn was a powerful presence of kindness and friendship to colleagues, students, and the wider community, and cherished many family ties to Gannon. Seize the Day, the tour company involved in the incident, posted to its Facebook page, "All of us at Seize the Day are deeply saddened and shocked by the shark attack at Green Key yesterday. As family and friends grieve her loss, police, along with Her Majesty's coroner, were back on the scene."
It's very, 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 very rare. We're all Bahamians. We live here. We swim all the time. It's just most unfortunate that this particular incident happened at this particular time.
Sources tell our news the shark attack victim suffered major injuries, including a severed right arm with significant bite marks on her flank and thigh. Bahamas Excursion Operators Association President Adoni Mlisgar is adding that sharks in the Green Key area are out of the ordinary. He says it seems these incidents occur after shark researchers come into Bahamian waters and chum the water.
Another research vessel was doing some studies about 2 weeks ago. Now this incident happens. Now it could completely be a coincidence, but it's pretty coincidental.
The recent incident stirring a conversation around shark attacks and sightings in popular areas. We went back to Montague today, where we understand sharks are constantly sighted as fishermen clean their catch.
The summertime is mating season for sharks, so they're really aggressive.
However, not everyone share the same view.
The fishermen who cleaning, or the cleaners cleaning the fish, if they put it in the bucket and dump it in the dumpster, you won't have that problem with sharks. We have plenty sharks out here.
Now again, as investigations continue, police say this beach has been closed until further notice. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Thanks, Berthany. And as investigations continue into yesterday's fatal shark attack, a local shark expert and dive master is explaining how the public can prevent negative interactions with sharks. Our Marlena Leonard has the story.
Andre Musgrove is no stranger to sharks. As an underwater photographer, dive master, and even a featured guest on the Discovery Channel's Shark Week, we asked for his expertise on sharks in Bahamian waters after yesterday's fatal shark attack off Green Key.
Negative interactions with sharks are, I would say, unfortunately frequent, and that's simply because not much people actually know much about sharks and animals. Sharks don't hunt down human beings. They're not known to hunt human beings because we're not on their natural prey list.
But Musgrove says the culling of sharks with an open season is not an option, and that sharks are part of a careful balance with our marine life.
That's just going to hurt the Bahamas, and it's going to hurt the entire ocean more than it's going to help us. The reason why the Bahamas could have the fishing industry as the third largest industry here in the Bahamas is because we have a healthy population of sharks that try to keep a healthy marine balance with all the other animals in the ecosystem.
Musgrove says avoid extreme splashing or handling dead fish in the water, and on the subject of chumming, reminds the public.
If you're chumming fish or chumming for turtles, putting squid in the water, putting dead fish in the water, putting anything that any marine animal could eat in the water, that will attract not only what you're targeting, but other things too. Chumming could be in any form. You could be throwing food in the water, you could be throwing fish food in the water, you could be throwing dead fish in the water, you can be fishing, you could be spearfishing. All of those are forms of things that would actually attract sharks to you, whether they're intentionally doing it or not.
Musgrove also spoke to the local shark population.
I know that there's a great population of certain species of sharks in certain areas based on research I've done with different people who work here in the Bahamas, and even at those times, I hardly see in person the sharks that they know are there.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
A former attorney who stole $1.7 million from his clients has taken a plea deal that requires him to repay the money and serve 18 months in prison. Ralph Jan Ward pleaded guilty to 8 counts of stealing by reason of service and 8 counts of fraudulent breach of trust when he appeared before Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson, marking the second time he's pleaded guilty to the offenses. In 2011, Ward pleaded guilty to the charges and was allowed to remain on bail in order to repay his victims. However, there was no formal plea agreement, and Ward withdrew his guilty pleas when he returned to court to give an update on the status of repayment. Ward then launched a series of legal challenges aimed at stopping the trial completely. The Privy Council refused Ward leave to appeal last December. Under the plea agreement, Ward has 9 months to make restitution of $1.8 million, which includes 2.5% interest to his victims. At the end of the 9 months, Ward will surrender to the court to begin serving his prison sentence at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. On the other hand, if Ward defaults on the restitution payments, he will be jailed for 4 years. In the meantime, he remains free on $100,000 bail. Pan American Health Organization officials confirming today that the first batch of monkeypox vaccines are on the way. We've got that and more to get to in a moment, but we now go to our weather center where meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by with your first look at temperatures.
Yeah, Talia, we've been stuck in this warm weather pattern and the temperatures are still rather warm this evening to 84 degrees outside our studios with a few clouds. The winds are now out of the north-northwest, all courtesy of that tropical, well, actually hurricane to the east of the Bahamas. 7 miles per hour and you'll feel slight temperature. Comfortable, 90 degrees, but still on the warm side. Radar, a couple of isolated showers up near the Grand Bahama area as well as around the Berries and the Bimini. Also a couple of isolated showers on the backside of Andros. Most of the island chain, not really seeing much in terms of any rainfall. We do have quite a bit of sunshine out there, and those clouds, well, fading out across the northwest Bahamas, but those isolated showers will continue to affect mainly the northwest Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Thanks, Greg. And still to come on Our News, PAHO urging member states to prioritize monkeypox vaccine for high-risk groups, plus traffic police out on the look for motorists sporting colorful light kits. More on the crackdown that's about to happen. And later, the survivor of a dog attack relives her experience following a recent deadly attack. That's coming up when Our News returns.
Got wireless dead zones at your house? How about endless buffering? Where you put the Wi-Fi password again? This is Aero. Aero is not just any Wi-Fi router. Rev customers get the first Wi-Fi system that covers every inch of your beautiful home, improving home coverage, higher speeds, high performance, and connectivity for up to 75 simultaneous devices. Aero. So while you're streaming your favorite show on HBO Max, Aero with Rev gives you the freedom to stay connected while you work, learn, and play at home.
Never think about Wi-Fi again with Aero from Rev. Visit rev.bs/Aero or call 601-8992 to make your Wi-Fi wishes come true.
The first batch of monkeypox vaccines are on the way. That's according to Pan American Health Organization officials. As our Jamila Mizik tells us, PAHO officials have recommended member states like the Bahamas to prioritize doses for high-risk groups.
The Bahamas is expected to receive the first batch of monkeypox vaccinations this month. PAHO officials confirming as much today as they say the Bahamas is among a number of countries that have committed to purchase vaccines from PAHO. Since monkeypox has been declared a public health emergency by the World Health Organization, the Bahamas has confirmed 2 positive cases, and according to health officials, both cases were isolated. PAHO Director of Health Emergencies, Dr. Ciro Ugarte, says the Bahamas has implemented measures since the beginning to detect and prevent the transmission of monkeypox. However, he's sharing this advice on what the Bahamas should do in the event of an outbreak.
Protect healthcare workers. They must be alert to identify those cases that may come with few symptoms, but a proper interview may identify a contact.
He says strengthening surveillance is paramount.
We'll find more cases if we look for them. Well, let's not have the cases come to us. We need to look for them and find them.
As it relates to COVID-19, last month, Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville said at least 70% of the population should become fully vaccinated by the end of the year in order for the government to lift the mask mandate. PAHO officials say while the Bahamas has adopted the risk assessment approach, health officials must remain on guard.
When we lift the mask mandate or any public health measure to reduce that reduces the transmission, we will see an increase of cases. So the health services must be also alert to do that, and the communities and the population must be also properly informed.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jamila Missick.
Thanks, Jamila. You may want to brush up on your knowledge of the rules of the road, as police will be clamping down on traffic violations, particularly as it relates to headlights and brake lights. Our Megan Shepard spoke with the officer in charge of the RBPF's traffic division. Here's her report.
Unique vehicles sporting colorful or flashing lights are popping up on roadways across the island. But while some motorists are seeking to express themselves through their vehicles, it's important to know that it could result in a fine. Officer in charge of the traffic division, Chief Superintendent David Lockhart, noting that the regulation states that headlights are to be white or amber. He says that some persons have also added red and blue flashing lights to their vehicles, a combination only reserved for emergency vehicles. Now, if you have not applied or been approved for these type of vehicles, that too is an offense.
So if your vehicle is not an emergency vehicle, you should not have flashing lights in any type, fashion, or form on your vehicle. Pink, red, green, blue, that's defective. The law provides that an officer can stop you and conduct an inspection of your vehicle. It's also an offense to ride with bright lights, because bright lights can cause the oncoming person to be dazed. It can cause a crash.
Your rear lights, if modified incorrectly, could also be an issue.
Persons, for some reason, put some device on their brake light to cause their brake light to flash as to give an indication that there is some type of emergency. That is a defective vehicle, because once you press your brake light, they should be solid red, giving the drivers behind you an indication that you should stop.
Chief Superintendent Lockhart says a focus will be on the exhaust systems on tractor-trailer heads.
They put a device in their exhaust that caused it to make a very ridiculous noise.
Now, if your vehicle has been deemed as defective for any of these violations, you could earn a fine of $100. If you are considered a repeat offender, Chief Superintendent says you will be taken before the courts for stiffer penalties. Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Thanks, Megan. And when our news comes back from the break, the comprehensive housing program for Abaco and New Providence, the opposition is lobbying for. And sportscaster Marcellus Hall is standing by in studio.
Plus, Natalia, coming up in sports for tonight, Jonquel Jones and the Connecticut Sun, they survived to play a Game 5. We'll also tell you about the latest from the New Providence Softball Association, big win for the RAB operators, and we'll also take a look at the latest from the playoffs in the Government League. That's all coming up in sports.
Thanks, Marcellus. It sounds so exciting. And a dog attack survivor shares her terrifying experience when our news returns.
Got wireless dead zones at your house? How about endless buffering? Will you put the Wi-Fi password again? This is Aero. Aero is not just any Wi-Fi router. Rev customers get the first Wi-Fi system that covers every inch of your beautiful home, improving home coverage, higher speeds, high performance, and connectivity for up to 75 simultaneous devices. Aero. So while you're streaming your favorite show on HBO Max, Aero with Rev gives you the freedom to stay connected while you work, learn, and play at home.
Never think about Wi-Fi again with Aero from Rev. Visit rev.bs/Aero or call 601-8992 to make your Wi-Fi wishes come true.
This is our news. Welcome back. As the first anniversary of the Progressive Liberal Party's election win approaches, PLP Chairman and Minister of Foreign Affairs Fred Mitchell is insisting minimum wage will increase soon. Mitchell is the latest top-ranking cabinet minister to insist his particular campaign promise is close to becoming a reality. He says reports are currently before cabinet. However, he could not confirm when this increase would take place.
The report of the body, which has the tripartite council, which has responsibility for giving advice on the minimum wage, has reported to the cabinet. And we are considering the advice. You know that we pledged in the campaign to raise the minimum wage to $250. I have no doubt that that pledge is going to be fulfilled shortly, but I'm not in a position to say because it's not been formally adopted, but the advice has been given. And minimum wage is important because the persons who are minimum wage earners really drive the economy.
Now, leader of the Free National Movement, Michael Pintard, commenting on unregulated communities across the country. He says there's a need for the government to put in place a comprehensive housing program in Abaco, New Providence, and to a lesser extent, Grand Bahama. Pintard says it's a no-brainer rather, that unregulated communities continue to have a negative impact.
That potentially put the health of residents in those communities at risk. And we need to articulate a comprehensive housing program where persons can transition from these unsafe, unregulated environments into homes, given their ability to pay.
He says in Grand Bahama, there are still too many dilapidated buildings.
So the Grand Bahama Port Authority, working with local and central government, must now look at the integrity of those buildings. Can they be refurbished? How do we incentivize private investors to convert those into livable communities so that persons who are now spending time with relatives, 2-3 families, whether in Grand Bahama and Abaco, even in some cases in New Providence, that they could transition into some of these new housing arrangements.
Now to another story we've been following as many residents continue to voice concerns over the alleged dog attack which claimed the life of 61-year-old Anthony Gary Swan last month. But no one may really understand what it's like to be attacked by a dog better than a survivor. Alicia Barton, she spoke exclusively with our Melina Leonard about her incident and shares her thoughts on Swan's death.
In the early hours of Saturday, August 27th, the body of 61-year-old Anthony Gary Swan was found in southeastern Nassau, and what shocked many was Swan was allegedly mauled to death by dogs. This has launched renewed pressure for responsible dog ownership and a push for consequences for those who fail to keep their dogs properly. But there's someone who feels this action is long overdue. In February of this year, Alicia Barton was coming home from work when she was nearly mauled to death by a neighbor's dogs. She still manages her post-traumatic stress on a daily basis.
I have my arm. This here, I have scars on my body, lumps under my skin, still from that night, and they hurt.
They still hurt?
They still hurt. I go to sleep, and if it's too quiet, I could hear the tearing of my scalp, my skin away from my scalp. And thinking initially, okay, that must be my hair, the dog's pulling my hair.
Barton is deeply frustrated at the lack of action since her attack in February and the recent deadly attack last month.
Some change has to be made. Some changes have to be made. That's the only way it could be worth it. I don't want in a couple of years to still feel this way that, all of this is for nothing.
We asked her what it has been like trying to get updates on her case.
I have not gotten much information from officials at all.
And the difficulty in getting updates from officials is a similar issue surrounding Swan's death. Our news has made efforts to reach out to the Animal Control Unit multiple times in the past week and have been unable to get updates on the fate of the dogs taken away from the scene of Swan's alleged attack. We'll have part 2 of our interview with Alicia Barton tomorrow, where we'll talk about the future of animal control in the Bahamas and what you can do to protect yourself and your community. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Great report, Marlena. And Jonquel and the Suns forcing a deciding Game 5 in the WNBA playoffs. Also the latest from ladies softball as the Operators take down the Scorpions. Marcellus Hall joins us now in studio.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Sometimes having your back against the wall will inspire a better result. Such was the case for Jonquel Jones and the Connecticut Sun. They were facing elimination last night as the WNBA playoffs continued, facing the Chicago Sky. Season on the line. Let's take a look and see how it went down. Only one game played in the New Providence Softball Association last night. Ladies affair as the RAB Operators taking on the Black Scorpions. Scorpions in their traditional black and red uniforms would give this one a bit of a run. This one a tight contest all the way down the stretch before the Operators able to pull away. They get the win here. 12-6 ends up being the final score. The game actually stopping due to time, but nevertheless a pretty competitive one. League play continues throughout the course of this week. We'll keep you abreast of the situation. Meanwhile, the playoffs continue tonight in the Bahamas Government Departmental Basketball Association. Game 1's in the series between the Sharks and Crime Stoppers. That comes your way at 7 o'clock. Following that, it'll be the Mariners taking on the Panthers. That game slides your way at an 8 o'clock start. We'll give you details on that. Those are both Game 1s in their particular series. Meanwhile, the games played during the course of the weekend. They played on Monday night. Here's a look at how things went on Monday night. It was the Cybots getting the win there as they took down the Airport Avengers 72-54. Abel Joseph leading the Cybots with 19 points. Meanwhile, on the other side, Bahamas Department of the Corrections, they just barely held off Rampage 99-95. Those series will continue on Friday. Jonquel Jones, Connecticut Sun. Connecticut trying to hold off elimination. Down 2-1 in the best-of-5 series. Home court advantage paying off this time as Connecticut rolls to the victory 104-80. That ends up being your final. As for Jonquel, not a big night offensively. Played 28 minutes, 9 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. But most importantly, they get the win. They survive to play a Game 5, which will come your way on Thursday. Winner take all, they'll move on. The loser, of course, would have to end their season. And that is your check on sports for you here on this Hump Day Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Thanks, Marcellus. And still ahead on Our News tonight, how an equity crowdfunding platform has positioned a local eatery to expand its operation. And don't go away, Greg is back in the Weather Center, still monitoring developments in the tropics.
Yes, Italia, we're tracking 4 systems in the tropics. We have Earl, which is to the east of the Bahamas, a hurricane at this time. Daniel, which is out there in the open Atlantic, far northeastern Atlantic. That is also still a hurricane. Broad area of disorganized showers to the west of the Cape Verde Islands. And we also have a tropical wave that's going to be moving off the African coast. We'll tell you more about those later on in our extended forecast.
Thanks, Greg. We'll see you back in a bit. Our news continues in a moment.
Got wireless dead zones at your house? How about endless buffering? Will you put the Wi-Fi password again?
This is Aero.
Aero is not just a new Wi-Fi router. Rev customers get the first Wi-Fi system that covers every inch of your beautiful home, improving home coverage, higher speeds, high performance, and connectivity for up to 75 simultaneous devices. Aero. So while you're streaming your favorite show on HBO Max, Aero with Rev gives you the freedom to stay connected while you work, learn, and play at home.
Never think about Wi-Fi again with Aero from Rev. Visit rev.bs/Aero or call 601-8992 to make your Wi-Fi wishes come true.
Welcome back to our news. We go now to meteorologist Greg Thompson over in the Weather Center, who's still actively monitoring the tropics for us. What are we seeing tonight, Greg?
Yes, Talia, we are still tracking the tropics. We have quite a bit of activity out there. We have Hurricane Earl, which is to the east of the Bahamas. Daniel is out there in the open Atlantic, well to the north and east and away from us. And surprisingly, still a hurricane, but is expected to continue to weaken as the evening goes on. Also watching broad area showers, disorganized showers and thunderstorms to the west of the Cape Verde Islands that the National Hurricane Center is giving a very high chance for formation. And then we have a tropical wave that's going to be moving off the African coast over the next 24 hours. So we are very busy in the tropics. Earl, as I mentioned, very powerful hurricane. It's getting up there. 85-mile-per-hour winds moving towards the north. It's expected to continue to strengthen as it moves towards Bermuda, and it's likely that it could make it to a Category 3 status before it gets to Bermuda, but it's expected to pass just east of those islands, east of Bermuda, and we expect those guys up there to closely monitor this one. Earl is going to be providing the Bahamas with some swells over the next couple of days as it continues to move towards the north and away from us, and we're asking boaters to exercise extreme caution out there, mainly along the Atlantic exposed shorelines, as well as you swimmers, we're asking you to exercise some caution as well for rip currents. Here's how Earl is going to be progressing. By tomorrow, is expected to strengthen to a Category 2 storm, and as I mentioned, as it approaches Bermuda, should get up to about a Category 3, and that's by the end of the week. We'll race off towards the north and east and into the open Atlantic over the next several days, and that should be the last we hear of Earl, and our swells will be subsiding as we see that system move towards the north and east. Daniel, as I mentioned, still a hurricane. It's going to be moving towards the north and east, expected to weaken by Thursday and then continue to weaken even further to remnant low as it pushes towards the east and approaches the European coast. It's expected to generate some very strong waves and some showers and thunderstorms as it moves into that area. Boating conditions for all areas tonight through tomorrow. We're asking you boaters to use some caution. Winds will be verbal at 5 to 10 knots. They will fall almost light and verbal at times. Seas will be 1 to 3 feet, but they will be up to 6 feet in some moderate swells along mostly the Atlantic exposed shorelines. Tide is presently low, and it will be actually high. It will be low at 38 minutes past midnight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look at your extended forecast over the next 7 days. Quiet weather, off and on showers likely. Those swells will be subsiding as we approach the weekend. Then we have a low-level disturbance moving into our area by the early part of next week, so we could see more showers by then. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody.
Thanks, Greg. And finally, tonight, a local eatery is expanding. Tropical Gyros is opening a second location. The company announcing this morning that the new location in the R&D Plaza will be open by December 1st, 2022. CEO of Tropical Gyro, Chef Kevin Culmer, says the investment through Arawak X, an equity crowdfunding platform, has received scores of pledges.
I think we've collected about $180,000 so far, and those funds are going to be used right now to get this location up and running. I've already, as you can see, we already started getting some design concepts in place. Equipment, all the stuff is being ordered. I got locksmiths, I got all kinds of stuff to get this up and running. So the money that was raised so far and collected is going directly into getting this restaurant up and running.
He adds that 20 people will be employed at the new location. Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Arawak X, D.R.C. Ramming Jr. says they are pleased to be on board, adding that the investment was structured in a way where it is scalable.
His business has seen some jumps in sales over this crowdfunding period. But it's a restaurant, and so a restaurant can only do so many, and then how you scale a restaurant is you open up more restaurants. So it's a very scalable business. That's why he's talking about franchising. That's why he's talking about opening up more locations. That's how the business scales.
And for more stories like this and all of today's top stories, visit Our News Bahamas on Facebook. Thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.